Welcome to the Money Maven Project podcast. If you're here to learn how to obtain freedom over your time and money through real estate investing, you're in the right place. Create the life you want by living with intention and becoming a maven in mindset, money, and real estate. Now, here's your host, Justin Monk.
Hey, this is Justin Monk with the Money Maven Project podcast. Super excited today for our guest, Josiah Smelser. Super stoked here. I don't have much of a bio. We haven't had too much time to coordinate here. So I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself and give us your background, kind of where you've come from, and then talk to us about how you got started in real estate investing.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here. So I live in Huntsville, Alabama. I've currently got a real estate portfolio of about 20 properties. It's all 1 to 4 family stuff, and it's worth around $4 million. Built the lion's share of that in about 12 months, but I started investing in real estate in 2004. I started off in the real estate game as an appraiser, and I've also got my broker license now. So I run my own appraisal business and and also use my broker license on deals here and there, but sold on my properties from 04, sold them in about 08, and then went to grad school, got married, hiked the Appalachian Trail, then got back into this real estate thing because I was interested in pursuing financial freedom and also working for myself and leaving the corporate world. And in a nutshell, that's my story. So, and I'm also married and got 3 children, ages 6, 5, and 2. So they keep me busy. Yeah.
Nice. So currently you have 20 properties.
Mm-hmm.
How many doors is that?
Yeah, it's 19 doors. We got 1 duplex and the rest are single families.
Nice. Valued at $4 million. And you did that in 12 months, you say?
Yeah, the lion's share was in 12 months. And we can dive into that if you want to. But we started off, like most people do, just looking around on the MLS and being an appraiser, I'm always big on being able to pull good data on comparable sales and being able to know my ARV and that kind of thing. And, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. Huntsville, anybody who knows about Huntsville, it's a really hot market. A lot of growth going on here. A lot of people trying to invest here from out of state. And when I moved here, I grew up in Florence, Alabama. So I moved closer to home because, I've got kids and my parents are close. So I wanted to be near grandparents.
Yeah.
So when I moved back here, I was shocked at how few deals I could find. And we worked pretty hard, I'd say the first 12 months, and just got 2 or 3 properties, which I was not satisfied with. I just felt like we should be making more traction for all the effort we were putting in. And so I said, well, why don't we look outside of Huntsville and try to locate or identify some other markets we would want to invest in. And, I formerly lived in Fort Worth, Texas. That's where I started my first appraisal business back in 2005.
Yeah.
And I learned that market really well while I was out there because I was doing appraisal work, residential appraisal work. And so I've always loved that market. The investments I owned from 04 to 08 did really well there. And I wish I'd kept all those. But back then there wasn't a bigger pockets and there wasn't this momentum and movement with real estate investors that there is now. At least I didn't know about it. And so I was just reading things like Rich Dad Poor Dad and some real estate investing books here and there, and kind of felt like I was kind of flying out on my own doing this stuff. But I love that market, and I believe that market's really going good places. And I lived over in Fort Worth, actually. So we started looking in Fort Worth, and I was able to find deals in Fort Worth and more deals than I was in Huntsville. And so most of my properties are in Fort Worth, Texas, and we typically bought deals in I would say B class neighborhoods. So not the nicest, but higher end than C class, and most of them are cash. Or the average profit per door is right around $200 net of operating expenses and debt service. And we feel like they're appreciating nicely based on data and the markets and stuff. And So our goal was to get good cash flow and also get good appreciation, and that's why we chose these areas.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so how are you funding these? Is this all personally funded? Are you getting some partners, investors? How are you doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we started off the same way most everybody else does. We had some capital, and I say we. My one of my best friends approached me a couple years ago. He had a really good year with his business. He was in sales. He had some extra capital. He knew that I was into real estate investing, and also I did appraisal work. And he wanted a partner to go in and do this stuff. So he said, "Hey, I'll throw the money in. I'm not comfortable investing on my own. I don't know what I'm doing. If you'll basically help us locate good investments and run the whole process, we can split everything if, once I get my money back." So
Yeah.
the deal I made with him is we split everything 50-50. We formed a partnership, and I just basically ran point on finding the deals, getting them financed, getting them renovated, getting the tenants in there, getting them refinanced, and he put the capital in. So I was able to build this portfolio with none of my own money, but a good deal of my time, which is the equal of money in my
Yeah,
eyes. Like, you're either going to put time in or you're going to put your own money in or something.
exactly.
You can't do it without investing some resource. So I put time in, he put money in, and we were able to. It really worked well for us. But the way we structured this was when we started off, we just had some capital, and we were going the traditional route where you find a deal, you take it to the bank. They may do a subject to completion loan on it where you can borrow to purchase plus fix it up, and then they're going to lend you 75% of that or something along those lines. But of course, that takes a while to close those loans, and then if your appraisal comes in low, it's hard. It's just harder to do it that way. So we figured out later that the bottleneck in our process was time and was money, right? So you don't want to wait. You can't wait for a month to close on a deal that you found off market, or that you're getting through a wholesaler. They don't want to give you that much time. So we realized we need to buy from wholesalers, and we need to have quick money to close. So we started going through hard money lenders. Well, the hard money lenders, would say a lot of them would market that they'll close, up to 90% loan to cost or whatever. So we would go that route. We would get a deal. We'd have to have 10% of our cash tied up plus, insurance and monthly payments and closing costs and all that, which adds up to a lot more than 10% of the deal. So you again start running out of capital. So what really changed the whole deal for us was when I started borrowing private money and layering that in on top of the hard money to basically take control of deals, fix up deals, and get them refinanced with no money out of my own pocket. So that's how we were able to go so fast.
So you started borrowing private money. So is this just from other people that or in your network? Like, how did you start finding that private money?
Yeah. We basically, well, we were doing deals, and I have my Instagram account, which it's at Daily Real Estate Investor. I'd love to connect with anybody that wants to connect over real estate and that kind of thing. I love real estate investing, but they were tracking with me on my Instagram account, and then my podcast, The Daily Real Estate Investor. I was meeting people through that, and when you're doing deals and people are tracking with you and see that what you're doing, people will start approaching you with money, because they want to get a good return on their investment as well. Some people
Yeah.
are not getting a great return in the stock market, and some people just have money outside of the stock market that they don't have invested in real estate that they just want to make a decent return on. And so they would come to me and offer, hey, I would be happy to make you a loan at this amount with this rate, and I was able to use that money and go do some residential deals, layering that in on top of hard money, where we didn't have to use all of our capital to go in and take these deals down. We would keep our capital in reserves, and that allowed us to do a lot more volume all at once. So
Yeah. And then your strategy, are you cash out refinance down the road to give
Yes.
a return back to the private
Yep.
money and to pay off the hard money? Awesome.
Yeah, the way the average loan would work is, and I found most of my stuff through wholesalers, because looking on the MLS, I just was not able to find deals that made a lot of sense most of the time. I found a few MLS deals that are great, but most of these were through wholesalers. So we would lock the deal down, and then we would go to my hard money and private money guy, tell them how much this is going to be. They would cut a check for the entire amount. We would close on it. We would use our money to service the interest only payments throughout the renovation. Then once we had this thing rented, I would take it over to Fannie Mae and do a 30-year fixed conventional refi. And it's not a cash out refi. A lot of people think, well, you can't cash out for 6 months. Well, we weren't doing a cash out. We were, because I wasn't borrowing the private money directly. The private money was going into the deal at closing. So when we did a refi, we were just directly paying off the hard money and private money lender through the refi. So there was no cash out done. So the way the Fannie rules were working the entire time we were doing this is there is no seasoning period when you're not doing a cash out. You can refi in a month or 3 months or whatever. So we were literally limited by just how fast we could get the refi or the renovation done. So a lot of times this would take 3 months. We'd buy it, have it renoed and rented in 3 months, and have our refinance ready to go.
So that's an interesting point. That difference between a cash out refinance and then just a normal refinance. So you're saying that because you weren't pulling any more capital out other than the 70% that they would give you, there was no seasoning period on it. Is that what I understand?
Right. And these, the way that our refinances worked, they gave us 75%. So, and there may be a lower limit on cash out refinances, but we weren't using those. So with the 75% loan to value, as long as my deals were at 75% of the ARV, I could pull this whole process off without putting my own capital into the deal. So literally the thing you want to do is, speed up the velocity of money, right? You want to have the money going in, have the renovations going quickly, and have the refinance completed quickly, because that gets your hard money and private money back. It lowers those high borrowing costs on the hard money and private money loans, which, by the way, our blended rate on these was about 8.5%. So it's lower than you probably initially thought, because we had good hard money and private money lenders, and they trusted us and stuff. So it wasn't really super high rate of interest, but when you compare it to, like 3.5%, which is what we refinance some of them on, it's much higher. So
Yeah.
The trick was just going quickly through the renovation and refi process, but we didn't have to let it season for 6 months because there was no cash out refinance going on at the closing. They were just paying the hard money and private money back.
That's interesting, because that's where I got a few deals right now. I've started in single family, been using the Burr method. So I'm looking for a refinance here to get my capital back out. And I've been told by the banks I've been talking to that I do have that 6 month seasoning period, which is obviously slowing my velocity of money down.
Yep.
But apparently I need to ask better questions about what some other options are. If I'm not pulling any capital out, just going straight to that 70 or 75%. I wonder if I can speed that up a little bit.
Yeah. If I don't know how you're funding your deals, but did you put 20% down on it when you started, or how did you initially fund it?
So most of them, I've got a large home equity line of credit. And so I'm picking these up for, I'm picking them up for $40,000 or $45,000 and putting some rehab money into them. And then I'm holding them on the HELOC. Obviously you want to cycle that through with some refinances so I can go buy some more.
Sure.
Yeah.
In that scenario, Fannie Mae can always change what they're doing. So as of now, July 2020, last I checked, Fannie Mae was requiring 6 months in that scenario to get through the cash out. So if you, instead of using that HELOC, if you had a private money lender who would fund your deals at closing, and take a lien on the real estate, they could be paid back in just a straight up refinance without that seasoning period involved.
Interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Cool. Well, that's a really good point, really good distinction there. So going forward now, what's the strategy? What's the plan now?
Yeah. So I view this 1 to 4 family stuff as a good retirement plan. I mean, we've got 4 million in real estate right now, and there's 2 of us, so I'm 39 years old. If we liquidate it all when I'm 65, and it appreciates at it's like, 3% rate or something like that, it's gonna triple in value. So, we would have 6 million each in
Yeah.
paid for real estate,
Yeah.
which I would likely sell at that time and do a 1031 exchange, or even do a refinance and just pull 75% of that out and then keep the real estate or something. But it's a great retirement plan for us, because I would just stick the money in an index fund and live off of the 4% rule. Just take
Yeah.
4% of 6 million, have 240,000 a year coming in. And I know that's in 25 years, that's going to be less money than it is today, but it's still a great retirement plan. So what I'm working on now is scaling up and doing bigger deals for basically the financial freedom aspect of this, because our portfolio is kicking off $200 a door times 20 doors, so about $4,000 a door per month. But I've also made the commitment to pay my investment partner back all of his capital before I take anything out of the business, and we're planning on doing that upon a refinance here in probably 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So at that point, all that cash that goes into the account, half of it's mine. But you know how investing in 1 to 4 family stuff is. You just got to have good reserves there, and we were really thankful we had good reserves during all this COVID stuff, because we
Yeah.
had 10 deals that were being renovated that were vacant when all this COVID stuff happened. And the banks required that your reserves, they required that you have double the reserves that they did previously just to close our loans. So it went from having 6 months of reserves to 12 months of reserves overnight.
Wow.
And so we're really thankful that we had proper reserves in place. So, right now we're not taking money out of our real estate business. All the profits just building up our reserve in our account. And so like I view that as kind of a retirement plan. And like once we start getting surplus reserves, we're just going to start paying off the cheapest property and just get that whole portfolio paid off. And then we could start living off the cash flow at that point. But over on the other side, I'm now working at buying my own apartments. So I'm working on buying a 30 to 100 unit deal this year is my goal. So that's what I'm working on next.
30 to 100 units this year. I think I remember seeing a post on that. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, that's so cool. You definitely have to keep us posted after you accomplish that. Let's get you back on and tell us the story. Tell us how you.
That'd be awesome, man.
What's the common terms that you're using for the private money? I mean, what kind of terms are you asking for?
It's really kind of whatever the lender wants, but I mean, I was honestly shocked how easy it was to go the private money route. Because I just had it in my mind that private money is only something that really big players can get, and really private money is something that anyone can borrow. I mean, you could borrow money from one of your family members, right? Like if you wanted to buy a car and you didn't have enough money to buy a car, you could go to your family member and say, "Hey, can I borrow money to go buy this car?" Now they may not want to lend it to you, right? But that would be a private money loan. So just because you hear private money, there's 1,000 different ways to structure it, and there's some rules about it when you're investing in real estate, like going out and offering to take private money and invest it. So you gotta make sure you're abiding by those rules. But If you've got, pre-existing relationships and stuff, there's some different rules about that. And my private money lender, I already had a relationship with, and they actually came to me and offered me the money. I didn't even go ask them. Like,
Oh,
and you'll discover that as you're investing in real estate, you'll start having people approach you that are high net worth individuals. And this guy was accredited as well. And I mean, I wasn't, like I said, I didn't go to him. He came to me, and he just asked, hey, what's a way I can help you in your real estate business? I said, honestly, I've been thinking about private money. He said, how much do you want? And I said, I don't know, $200,000. And he was like, you got it. So I was like, what? Like, it's just kind of crazy. Um,
wow.
and I think the rate was 9% interest only for 12 months. So not a super high interest rate. And he just took a second lien on the property, which I was totally fine with. And the reason he was okay with it is he liked the markets I was investing in. He knew the markets I was investing in, and he also knew that the hard money cost plus the private money cost was below 75% of the value of the property.
Yeah.
So in a scenario where he's got to foreclose, there's still 25% margin above his loan amount on the asset. So he felt like he was in a margin of safety he was comfortable with, and he also felt like we knew what we were doing, and it worked out. He got all his money back. He's always gotten paid on time. So that's the win-win that you're looking for when you're using other people's money to invest in real estate.
Yeah. That's so awesome. That's
Yeah,
so
it really did change my investing game a lot. And I remember when somebody talked to me about possibly considering private money, I was like, well, yeah, I would consider that, but that seems, far-fetched or whatever. And they're like, you would be surprised. And literally the first person I actually talked to about it, said they would give me money, which was crazy. So, I mean, I think people are a lot more capable of leveraging this than they think.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously he probably had been paying attention to what you were doing via your podcast, social media, things like that.
Yeah.
So he probably had already kind of garnered or developed a level of trust in your expertise and your ability to turn deals over and make money. So that obviously probably went a long ways of selling him on the idea way before you
Yes.
guys even had that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think about it this way, if you had, let's say you had $1 million net worth, and you were making 200,000, 250,000 a year or whatever, and somebody came to you and had a good project, and you had some money to invest, like what's going to make you want to invest with them versus not want to invest with them? Like, if you don't trust them, or you don't know them at all, or you think they don't have a good track record, or you've heard something negative, like, you're not going to invest in that for anything. You know what I mean? But if you feel good about it, you like the asset class, you've known them for a while, you've followed with their track record, like, those are things that are compelling reasons to invest.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing as it would be, like, with investing in a startup, I would guess. Or are you going to go throw a big chunk of money into a startup you know nothing about, versus maybe a company you're more familiar with, that you've followed along with for a while? Like, one looks a lot better than the other.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So with this money, this 200K, how are you using it? Are you using it for the cost that the hard money's not covering, right? The hard money had
cor-
a still needed
correct.
10%. So you're distributing this 200K across several deals, covering the 10%
Yeah,
and the associated holding cost and purchasing cost, right?
that's correct. Yeah, we used it for everything that wasn't covered by the hard money,
Yeah,
except holding costs. Like, we had to pay the holding costs out of our own pocket.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
So the hard money would pay 90% loan to cost, and this was pre-COVID.
Yeah,
I know hard money lenders have lowered the ones I've talked to have lowered their loan to value requirements, but our hard money guy was doing 90%, and then our private money guy was doing 10% plus closing costs. So we would even roll the closing costs in, because closing costs add up. I mean, when you're
yeah,
borrowing hard money, they may be charging you 1.5 points, and then you've got all these other closing cost fees. It can turn into a good bit of money.
Yeah.
So when you're able to use, private money or other people's money for the closing costs as well as the other 10%, it really frees you up to do more deals. That's how we were able to do 10 at one time.
Yeah. Wow. Because that's impressive. I mean, I don't know how else you go. You pick up 20 properties. 19 was it 20 properties, 19 doors? Was it?
Yeah,
No.
it was 20 doors, 19 properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Other way around. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to do that in 12 months, I mean, you've got to have this kind of a system where you've got
Yes.
money, you've got somebody else covering the cost. Otherwise, that's going to be
Yeah.
you. So that's
Yeah. And I would also say this, like, be cautious, because you could get yourself into trouble doing this. And here's how. If you screw up your after repair values, if you screw up your, what these are going to be worth when you're finished, then when you go to refinance and they don't come in where you thought they would, you're going to have to use capital to close them, right? And if you've got 10 going at once and you've got your $5,000 short on 10 properties each, you're going to have to come up with 50 grand. So make sure you've got money in reserves, and in case your appraisals come in low, because as we know, nothing ever goes exactly like you think it's going to go in real estate. So you gotta have some money there in reserves. But the thing I like about this is, let's say you've got $200,000 in reserves. Well, instead of having all your money tied up in deals and leaving you with no reserves while you do 10 properties, if you use other people's money to do all 10 of those, you've got your 200 sitting in reserves. And then let's say you go on the refinance and they come in overall $5,000 low a deal, and you got to put 50K in. Well, you've still got 150 in reserves, and you've got all your properties refinanced.
yeah.
And that 50K you sunk in there, that's at the 75% loan to value number. So you may have put in 50K, but you may have gained 500K, right, in equity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you've 10x that equity you put in. That 50K is worth created 500K in equity, and you now own all these cash flowing properties, and you've still got 150 in reserve. So just make sure you don't. I would caution people not to use this strategy if you don't have any reserves.
Yeah, that's super smart. I agree with that. Yeah, having reserves in general, right? That's obviously a great piece of advice. So,
Totally.
um, awesome, man. So what would you tell somebody that's trying to get into real estate? Like, um, this is obviously a great method. I think anybody can do this. But what are some main tips that you would give for somebody that's trying to jump in?
Yeah. Um, it's totally doable. I think you have to be responsible in the way you go about it, because you know I have the feeling, and I read a lot of people that are saying, like, I don't have any money, I want to invest in real estate. And that's, you can use other people's money like I did. I partnered up with someone. He funded our entire deal, and we've got 4 million in real estate with 1.2 million in equity. It's been a phenomenal win for me, right? So, but I could not have done that if he didn't know I've been an appraiser since 2005.
Yeah.
I've appraised thousands of properties, single family, multifamily, all that. I've owned my own investment properties. Like, he was comfortable with me enough to do that. So you can get into real estate with none of your own money, but like, he always had reserves for us. Like, I would not have just taken his money and done deals on my own with no money in reserves myself, because that's setting you up for disaster, right? So
Yeah.
you just need to be wise about how you go about doing it, and figure out what your issue is, and then backfill that need. So if you don't have any capital, but you've got the hustle and you've got the knowledge, you can go out and find the capital to do the deals. Like, find somebody that wants to partner up with you and share in the equity, or find private money and figure out a way to build up your reserves or something. But like, this is something that anyone can do, but it's not easy. It does require work. It's not passive. It's not like investing in stocks, right? People call it passive income, but if you're owning 1 to 4 family stuff, you know that it's not completely passive. You're still getting phone calls and having to mess with stuff. Even if you have it managed by someone else,
Yeah.
it can become more and more passive as you put systems in place. But it's not like owning a stock. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But you can experience like incredible wins in real estate that are very difficult to get in the stock market, in my experience. So I can find deals all day long where I'm getting above a 20% in cash on cash return in 1 to 4 family, whereas over in the stock market, Warren Buffett's gotten 21% a year on his stuff. So I mean, Warren Buffett's in the top 1% of the top 1%. I mean, you're not, good luck getting 21% a year in the stock market.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. Okay. Perfect. So what do you think separates for those that succeed in real estate or whatever journey they're on from those that struggle and give up, fail?
yeah, man, it's just grit. It's grit and hustle. I mean, you gotta really go after with a commitment to work through all the problems, because there's going to be a lot of problems. There's going to be a whole lot of problems, a whole lot of things go wrong. And you just got to be willing to persevere through it and take each one that comes with a smile on your face and say, this is just part of it. Like, I mean, I couldn't even begin to tell you the number of things that have gone wrong. Like, it's unbelievable. But it's part of it, man. And the return on investment we're getting is ridiculous, So, but it's because we've put up with a lot of ridiculous problems. And it's like, I have not found a real estate investor that doesn't have to do the same thing. It's like every one of us have all these weird things happening all the time with our properties, from pipes busting to gas leaks to, domestic violence issues in the homes to, I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
Like tenants just leaving on the middle of a lease, or, COVID-19, or, it's like always something. But I mean, the thing is, like, you can get that really outsized return, and you're only limited basically by your ability to go out there and make these things happen. So,
no, that's exactly right. Perfect. I love that. The grit. So another question I really like to ask is, what's your favorite book, or what's a book that's been the most powerful impact in your life that you would recommend others to read?
Yeah. So right now, I mean, I'll tell you one that I'm going through right now that's really made a big impression on me is the book Relentless by Tim Grover. It's powerful. It's about a guy who did a lot of work with Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and a lot of it was on mindset. It was on creating a grit and perseverance in your own mind towards what you're doing that is gonna take you levels up from where most other people operate. And it truly is, like, after reading this book, like, I've gone back and watched some of those old Jordan games. And just from what he talks about Michael Jordan, like, you can see it in Michael Jordan. Like, Michael Jordan is phenomenally talented, but the guy also worked his butt off at what he was doing. And watching him growing up, I took the work he put in for granted. Like, I just thought, this guy's just this awesome, But what I didn't see was all the work that was going in behind the scenes, and how just, dogmatic he was about being the best he could be at every part of what he was doing. And I think, like, that characteristic alone, I think you can have average talent in real estate investing. And if you have that mindset where you're going to just basically run through a brick wall to get where you're going, and be so persistent that, like, nobody's going to outwork you or out persist you, you can do incredible things in real estate. And this book is really good for that. And it's Relentless by Tim Grover. So check that one out.
Yeah. Awesome. No, that's perfect. I've read Relentless. That is a great book. Also saw Tim Grover speak at one of the 10X Growth conferenses, which was really awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Super good. Okay. Awesome. So well, how do I ask this? What's the mindset that somebody needs to have? I mean, you talked about grit, but give us more of an insight to the mindset that you that you think somebody's going to have to get, for example, in your goal is, what was it, 100 doors by the 30 to 100 doors by the end of the year, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
What's that going to take? Like, what kind of a level of mindset are you going to have, and how
Yeah.
obviously teach others what it's going to take?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll just tell you what we've been doing. We pulled data on all the property owners in our target market, and I built I built a team of people out, and we've been calling 200 owners a day,
Hmm.
and we've been, the good leads we have, I've been connecting with those owners and talking to them about what they want for their property. Friday I went and spent 3 hours walking a property with a property owner who's interested in selling. We're interested in buying it from him. Right now I'm working through all the numbers, just trying to get our number nailed down on what we're going to offer him. But it's taken massive action. I don't have one yet, but I also know that anytime in the past where I've taken a lot of action towards a goal, like it's just a matter of time until you reach the goal. So, if it takes me a year, if it takes me 2 years or 3 years, I'm going to keep going at it. So my goal is 12 months, and I'm going to work at it like I want to get it done in 3 months, right? But at the same time, and this is how I think real estate investing works, like it's like if I don't reach my goal in 12 months, I'm not giving up, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
keep going.
Right.
But I'm committed in my mind to doing everything with my power to get there within the next 12 months. So, but it's just taking massive action and doing everything you can to like get the momentum going, to get the rock rolling downhill. So you're not going to find deals if you're not out looking for deals. So we just said, hey, we want to contact a ton of owners. Then we want to work those leads best we can. Then once we get a deal under contract, we got to figure out the financing aspect of it. And I've already got a number of people who just through my podcast and Instagram or whatever that are accredited investors that have approached me wanting to invest in multifamily deals with me. So I'm fairly optimistic about that part of it, but that's another piece to the
Wow.
puzzle. And then I've got some guys that are seasoned apartment investors that I'm friends with that have offered to work with me on my first deal. So to make sure give me a sanity check on everything I'm doing, make sure I'm not making some huge mistake or something. So,
Yeah.
um,
Smart.
so yeah, that's kind of been my approach so far.
I love that, man. So outside of real estate and this awesome journey that you're on, what else do you like to do? What else are you passionate about?
Yeah. So I'm really into fantasy football. So I do that every year. I'm commissioner of my league and have a bunch of guys. We've all played together for a long time, super
Mhm.
competitive. We really get a kick out of that. And then, I've got little kids, so I spend a lot of free time just doing family stuff, just hanging out with my kids and that kind of thing. But, you know, hobbies outside of that, or I mean, honestly, I do real estate as a hobby as well. Like I just really
Well,
get a
that's a
good
good
kick out
point.
of it. Yeah.
That's a passion, right? That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't really get tired of real estate.
Yeah.
But I mean, as my kids are growing up a little bit, I mean, I'm getting to do more and more fun stuff with them and cool stuff with them. And then,
Yeah.
my wife and I like going out and trying different places to eat and that kind of thing. And, growing up, I was always playing every sport I could and really into that. But I mean, now I've kind of transitioned into like, I do my podcast as a hobby, just connecting with people on Instagram that are investors. That's kind of a hobby of mine now.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so like, honestly, like a lot of this real estate work just also checks the hobby box off for me. So
That's cool. Yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it. I love that. It's obviously super. It's a little easier to stay motivated and stay focused when it's something that you enjoy so much. So,
yeah, exactly.
you mentioned the Appalachian Trail that
Yeah,
you've done half of that. You want to go back and do the whole thing, right?
yeah, correct.
Tell us more about that and what that's
Oh
going
man,
to take.
it was such an epic experience for me. I mean, um, yeah. So 2008, I sold all my properties from when I was living in Fort Worth, and pretty much sold everything I had except just some clothes, and
Yeah.
put the little bit of belongings I had in a tiny little storage unit, and literally had nothing. and just went and did the Appalachian Trail, put everything, took a backpack, and a buddy and I went, and we started in Georgia, and we hiked to Pennsylvania, and we took about 3 months, but it was awesome, man. Just met some of the coolest people, and just basically living out of a backpack with kind of your belongings in your bag. It was really freeing to me, to not have stuff to worry about. And the funny part about this whole thing is the real estate market was going down in flames during that time, and I was off in the woods, like hiking around, like oblivious to it all. You know what I mean? So, because I didn't own any real estate, and I had not a care in the world at that point. So, but it's a bucket list item of mine, because we got halfway finished, and we were spending so much more money on food than I budgeted for, because I read that they calculated that, younger hikers, like I was doing it in my 20s, right? So younger hikers that have a higher metabolism, you're burning 12 to 16,000 calories a day out there. So, because you're literally walking up and down mountains all day, with a 40-pound pack on your back. So I could not believe how much food we were eating, and I was losing weight like crazy. We could not eat enough food. And so I was watching my bank account, and I'm like, I'm going to run out of money with like 25% of the trail left, And we were halfway done, and we were just kind of like, what do we do? Do we keep going and then start putting money on credit cards, or do we just stop right here, leave with money in the bank, and go back to work and that kind of thing? Because I had quit my job. Like, I didn't have a source of income either at that point. So we decided to stop halfway. But one of the reasons one of my whys outside of financial freedom for my family and to give back and help people is I want to go back and do the trail. I'm going to start back in Georgia, and I want to go all the way to Maine this time. And this time I want my real estate investments to pay for it. And I even have it in my mind that, like, because I'm probably going to have to do this in my 60s when my kids are grown, that kind of thing, maybe 50s, late 50s. But I'd even like to have enough money coming in from my real estate investments that, like, I can just, when I meet cool people, like we go into towns, like I can just buy all their meals and stuff. Just like do a lot of fun stuff for people without them like knowing that, hey, this guy has any money. I love to just like help people out and have a really good time. So it's kind of a bucket list thing for me.
That's so cool, man. That's awesome. And we all look forward to you documenting that, because that sounds pretty awesome. But that's a great point, right? A big message of the Money Maven Project is to get people, or to figure out how to get to a place in life where you don't have to say no to things that you want to do or things that you're passionate about because of a limit of time or money. And that's the freedom that I hope everybody can get to. So, being able, I'm not saying you ran out of money, but you had to make a decision there. Like, okay, do I keep going, and do we keep pushing on, or do we go back? And man, this next go around, you won't have any limits. No limit on time, no limit on money. It'll be passively paid for by passive income, quote unquote passive income. And that's a whole different thing. And that's where I hope with our messages here in the project is to get everybody thinking that way, and having those kinds of goals and earning or obtaining that kind of freedom. That's awesome. It's a great example.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing with your show, Justin. I know it's going to help a lot of people.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you being on. I think this has been a great message. I've actually learned a lot. I think it'll be great for the listeners. And again, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. I'd love to keep in touch, and if I can help you guys out anyway, let me know. And I'd love for everybody to check out my podcast. Oh, and I also have a book. Build It. Dream It and Build It: How to Crush Your Real Estate Investing Goals is the title of the book. I'd love for folks to check that out. It's on Amazon in physical or Kindle format. The Kindle format is the easiest to find. Sometimes Amazon will sell out, and it takes my publisher a while to get back to them. But if you want a physical copy and it's not on Amazon, you can Google Book Baby, and Book Baby has it in their store. They can always get it to you, so it's there. Easiest to get it on Amazon though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So Dream It and Build It, right, is the book title.
Yep. And then Instagram's at Daily Real Estate Investor.
Perfect.
And and the podcast is the Daily Real Estate Investor, of course. And Justin, I'll have to have you on my podcast as well.
Let's do it, man. Let's line it up. Yeah. And I'll make sure all that stuff is in the show notes here so everybody can check you out. And man, thank you so much.
Sounds great, man. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Money Maven Project podcast. A true maven shares knowledge with others, so be sure to share this podcast and leave a review. Thanks so much, and until next time, live life with intention.